Hi everyone, welcome back to another video for Phantasy Star Online 2 New Genesis. So today's video, what I want to do is essentially kind of similar to what I've done for games like PSO and PSU, where I basically want to do a total beginner's guide to NGS. So in those games, I basically took you through everything you need to know to get started, and that's essentially what I'm going to do with this one. So I'm going to take you from the very start, show you the absolute basics of NGS, things you might need to know when you first start playing, and just to try and make the experience of starting with NGS a little bit easier. So the first thing we'll cover is actually getting started with the game. So this will all be recorded on the Steam version, but pretty much everything here should also relate to the console versions as well, so it should be interchangeable between the two. So once you've loaded NGS and you've got to your title screen, you've got a few options here. You don't really need to worry about any of these, so you just like start game to begin with. Now the first thing that you'll get asked with NGS is what ship you want to play on. Now the way this works is, if you're not familiar with how PSO2 and NGS work, each ship is essentially like a server. So you can freely play with people on the same ship as you for any content. There is some content in the game that allows what is called all ship matching, which is where players from different ships will be put together in the same quest. But the majority of things in the game at the moment, at the time of recording, are restricted to your single ship. Now, it's up to you which ship you want to go on. For some reason, you can't go to 5 or 6. They have never been available to create a character on for some reason. But you can pick any of these 4 ships. Now, I personally play on ship 2. I'm not sure what the community is like on the other ships in total, but there is an English community on 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I'll select ship 2. Okay, so once you get to here, you'll come to this menu. So you've got character creation and selection, support menu, which is just a few options that you can configure. So this allows you to do things like change your player ID name. This will cost you arts cash if you want to do this, just to be aware. You can also link your account between PSO data from other platforms if you want to. So there's a few options you can do there. You can also view your login history, which I think is so you can check to make sure your account hasn't been used. You can also view the credits from here as well. But what most people do first is you'll go to the character creation. Now, when I come here, obviously I've already got characters. So this is where it'll show all the different characters that you've got. Now, I can't remember what the actual limit is. You do get a certain amount of characters for free. I want to say it's maybe 3 free characters possibly, but it could be more than that. I'm not entirely sure how many you get for free now. If you can't make one for free, then you can pay arts cash to add another one. There is a thing here that says, where is my character? So if you log in and there's no characters there, there's a couple of reasons for that. It's either you've been banned from the game, but you may not be able to log in if that happens anywhere. The most likely thing, if you can't see characters, is that maybe you've selected the wrong ship. So you can see, for example, if I log back out of here, and let's say I log into ship 3. And you can see I've got no characters here. And this is because I've never played on ship 3. So if you can't see characters, just back out and go to a different ship and just make sure you're selecting the right one. So this is probably what you'll see when you first actually log in, so you'll just have an option to create a new character. Now, I'm not going to go through the character creation process in this video because I do actually have an in-depth video on that already on the channel, which I'll leave a link to. So once you've gone through the stages of creating a character, you'll get put into the actual game. Now, when you first jump into NGS with your very first character, the game will be a little bit different. So what I'll do is I'll jump on this character here. You can also see as well that there is an option to either start game PSO2 NGS or start game PSO2. PSO2 referring to the classic version of the game. There is also a way to get to the PSO2 blocks from within the game as well, so I'll show you how to do that as well. If you're wondering what player character video is, this basically plays the opening cinematic with your character in there. Normally it's like the generic characters, but if you play that, it'll show you your character in the opening cinematic. From here as well, you can also delete your character if you want to. You can also apply for ship transfers. So say you play on, let's say, ship 3, and then all of your friends have started playing and they play on ship 2, and you want to transfer, you can transfer your character over to ship 2. There are some restrictions with it. Certain things won't transfer. It does also cost Arx cash. And what this will do is every scheduled maintenance on the game, they will process the ship transfers, so you won't transfer straight away. It will be whenever the next maintenance is. You can also change your character name if you want to as well. Again, this costs Arx cash. Arx cash, I know we haven't really covered it much, but Arx cash is basically the paid currency of PSO2 and PSO2 NGS. But for now, we'll just log in. So as I mentioned, with your first character, things will be a little bit different. So you'll actually get put into a tutorial the first time you make a character. And what that'll be is it's essentially like the prologue of the story for NGS that takes place in Aelio town. And it shows you the events of what happened before you actually get to Central City. So play through that. It's really, really self-explanatory to get through it. There's nothing difficult you need to do. And that will explain sort of the main story of NGS. And that will then bring you towards Central City, which is the main city in Aelio, and that's where we are currently. So just play through that tutorial. There's not really anything you need to worry about in the tutorial. It just teaches you the absolute basics of the game. You can skip that tutorial on further characters as well. So when you create a new character, it'll generally ask you if you want to skip the tutorial. So I think as far as I'm aware, you only have to do it for the first one. You may not even have to do it for the first, but I would encourage it if you're playing for the first time. So once you've done the tutorial, you'll get brought to the main city of this region, which is called Aelio, and this city is called Central City. And when you get here, it can be a little bit overwhelming when you first get here because it's quite a big area. There's a lot here. So let's try and break Central City down a little bit for you. So with Central City, you've got this central mall part, which has a lot of shops on it. These shops are used for various different things, which I'll go into. You also have the central tower itself. So first of all, what do you need to know about the city zones? First of all, at the time of recording, there are 4 regions in NGS. So if you press start and go to world, this is your world map. And you can see the world is kind of split into 4 main regions in NGS. So we have this southwest region is called Aelio. And you can see we're here and we're in Central City at the moment. Following that, you'll then unlock this region, which is Retem. And the main city of Retem is Retem City. Then after that, you will unlock this region, which is Caveris. And Caveris' main area is this little Caveris camp. And then finally, you'll unlock this 4th region, which is Steer. And Steer, again, has a small camp. Now, the Steer camp, the Caveris camp, Central City, and Retem City are basically your home stations in each region. And they have the same features in pretty much all of them. So everything I'm going to show you in Central City will also apply to the other cities as well. So, what do we actually have here then? Also, just a quick note, you've probably noticed that the Christmas music is playing. It's because we are recording this just before Christmas, so one thing this game does do is it will decorate some of the lobbies in seasonal attire. So what you'll get is, you've got little Christmas decorations, the actual central tower itself, if you can see, it kind of looks like a Christmas tree. So that's one thing that PSO2 does do, and that kind of carries over from things like PSO. But once you get here though, the main areas you need to be aware of. So your first NPC over here is Item Trader. So when you speak to the Item Trader, there are tons of options, and a lot of this will go way over your head when you first start. Basically, all you need to know about the Item Trader is it's a place where you can trade items for other items. So the main ones you'll use early on will be things like the item recycle. So for example, you can get rare drop rate tickets, which give you 100% rare drop increase. And to get that, you trade him 6 EX cubes, which as you play through his night, you'll get quite often. But you can see there's various different exchanges here. You can also get things like some outfits as well. and things like stickers as well for your character. Some of these require things like Axe Cash items, but generally there is quite a lot of options to go through here. You can also get these things called Endemio capsules, which I use for grinding, which I'll go into a little bit. Generally, you are just exchanging one item for another. There's also item exchange. This one, you can see this requires what are called anniversary tickets. So there are certain events that give special tickets out, and then you can use those tickets to get some items here. As you progress through the game, there are more and more of these exchanges that you'll actually go into. So the main one that people are using at the moment is probably these two at the bottom. So for equipment upgrade, this is how you get some of the current best gear in the game. There is some slightly better gear, but this is still a really solid set. And the end weapons badge exchange is where you get some of the best capsules in the game as well. Which again, I'll go into what capsules are in a moment. So really, for a beginner player, all you really need to know about this NPC is that this is where you go to exchange items for other items. So next up, we have the Salon. Now again, I'm not going to go into the Salon too much in this video. This essentially is where you do anything related to cosmetics. So if you want to do anything like change your character's hairstyle, or change the hair color, change the body type, anything like that you can do in the Salon. Now, there is certain things you can do from outside the Salon as well. So if you open your main menu and you go to gear and sub palette and then go down to customize looks, you can change some things from here. So for example, I could do things like I could change my base wear, for example. So I could, for example, change my outfit to that one, or that one, or that one. So I can change all my outfits from there if I want to. Can also do things like I could change my hairstyle from here. So there is a limited amount of things that you can do from this quick menu. You can also do what are called looks. A look is basically like a template. So you can see here a few of the templates that I've got. So this one is based on Privity from Nika in her maid outfit. I also have the regular version of her as well. So if I just select this, hit yes, and hit yes again, it will automatically change everything over. So that's a really fast way of changing your look completely. So if you get a look that you really, really like, remember to save it as a look in the Salon. So that's how the Salon works. Again, I do have a video that covers the character creation and the Salon in depth on my channel already, so go and check that if you want to see that. So the next counter we've got is this one, which is the class counter. So this, as you would imagine, is everything related to your class. So this is where you can change class. Now, classes in NGS work kind of similar to base PSO2 if you've played that before. Essentially, there are quite a few different classes in the game, which all use different weapon types, which then means they use all different photon arts, they have different skill trees. So just an example, Hunter, for example, uses swords, partisans, and wide lancers. Fighter uses twin daggers, double saber, and knuckles. Ranger, which is what I am at the moment, uses assault rifle and launcher. Gunner uses assault rifle and twin machine guns. Force uses rod and talus. Tector uses talus and wand. Braver uses katana and bow. Bouncer uses soaring blades and jet boots. Waker just uses one weapon called a harmonizer, but it basically attacks with pets. So you basically have these pets that do your damage for you. It's quite similar to the, well, it shares some similarities with the summoner class from PSO2 base, if you have heard that already. But if not, just think of it as essentially like a summoning class that uses familiars. And then Slayer just uses Gunblade. So that's your classes. So the class counter is where you can set which class you want to do. So again, for example, if I wanted to switch to Fighter, all I would do is just select it here and it would let me change over. You can also see that each of the classes have their own levels. So you don't have a separate character level in this game. So it's not like PSU, where in PSU you had a character level and then a class level that was separate. In NGS, your level is whatever your class level is. So you can see on here, I am currently range level 95, which is the current cap. If I switch over to Gunner, I'll drop to level 75. If I switch to Force, I'll drop to level 1. Because I've never played Force in this character. So you will be leveling up each of these individual classes as you play. You can also select your skill trees here, which is for ones you've saved. You can also select what's called your subclass. Now, a subclass doesn't really have too much of an impact. So basically what subclass does is it allows you to use the skill tree of the subclass. There are certain skills that will only work on your main class, and we'll go into skill trees in a little bit. But it basically allows you to use skills from some of the classes and to use their weapons as well. So next thing you can do here is you can select what's called your loadouts. So I actually haven't done this for a while, but if you've got a specific loadout that you want to use, so specific weapons, specific armors, and a specific class loadout. So you can see here, I've got one here that was done when I was ranger level 80, and also Gunner 75. And with this specific gear, if I want to quickly switch to that, I can do it from here. So because I haven't done it for a while, let's actually update it here. So if I save data for my current class and say yes, you can see it's now set to Ranger Slayer, level 95 with my current gear. Ignore the fact I'm still using a 9-star Gunblade. I never use my Gunblade when I actually play this class. So next up, we've got the skill trees. So if you're going to learn class skill, we have a skill tree for each class. You can buy additional skill trees if you want to. I generally don't see the benefit of it for the most part. The only time you might want to buy a second one is if you've got one class that you want to play as a main and then have it play very differently as a sub. Maybe you would buy a second skill tree for that. So an example of that I could think of would be, for example, if you're going to Tector, skills like Shifter and Deband can only be used on main class, and there's quite a lot of skills with Tector that are main class only. It's the same for other classes as well, but this is a really good example of it. If you want to use Shifter and Deband, that means you're going to be a Tector as your main class. But obviously, if you're running Tector as a sub, there's not much point having Shifter and Deband necessarily, because you're essentially wasting a point. Now, yes, that does lock you out of these abilities here as well, but a lot of these are tied to Shifter and Deband anyway. So you might want to use Tector differently as a sub. So you might want to, for example, you might want to go into other skills a bit more. So because of that, you might want to go with the second skill tree. But generally, I've never had to use a second one yet. So the way the skill trees actually work, if I go into the Ranger one here, since we're currently on Ranger anyway, you can see we've got all these different skills. When you highlight a skill, it'll tell you exactly what it does. Some of the skills can be leveled up multiple times, and you level them up or down by hitting L1 or R1 on a controller. So you can see we can level that up or down. And by doing this, you can see at the bottom, there is a section just here that says your skill points. So if I take Blight rounds down to 1, for example, you can see it gives me 4 available skill points, which I could then use to spend on other skills if I want to. And if I put that back up to 5 again, I've got no available skill points left. Now, the way you get skill points, there are items on the map called Cocoons and Towers, and by completing those, you'll actually get skill points for doing them. So make sure that whenever you see a cocoon or a tower, and I will show you what those look like, make sure you do them to unlock those skill points for you. So as you get more skill points, you'll be able to learn more skills. Now these skills vary quite a bit, so some of these will be what are called active skills, like this one, Spread Shot. So these are skills that you'll need to actively add to your palette to be able to use them. And you just select them from there to use them. A lot of them are passive skills. And some of them are also linked. So you can see here, for example, we've got the Spread Shot here. And then if I learn Spread Shot, I can learn these skills. So just to show you how this works, so if I unlearn Spread Shot, I then can't use these skills because obviously these all tie to Spread Shot. So it makes sense that you can't learn these until you've learned Spread Shot again. If I relearn Spread Shot, I can then level these skills up. So that's how the skill trees work. So on the map, if you open your menu and go to the world, the Cocoons and Towers that I mentioned, which is where you get your skill points from, these are actually marked on the map once you find them. So these are Cocoons, and towers look like this. So towers are generally a little bit more difficult, but will give you more skill points. But yeah, just make sure you do those whenever you see them. Next up, we have a thing called tech art customization. Now, this probably isn't something you're going to worry about too much as a new player. This is more for when you get to the higher level. But this basically lets you adjust photo arts in the game. This basically lets you adjust photo arts in the game to act differently. So again, as a new player, you're probably not going to spend too much time with this. So the next thing we've got here is Mars skills. Mars is an ability that you can learn that allows you to use this kind of mecha attachment that lets you attack differently. Again, I already have a video on Mars on my channel, so feel free to go and check that out. And again, this is something you'll probably use a little bit later on anyway. So feel free to go and check the Mars guide on my channel. I don't really feel like I need to cover that in this video. We also have add-on skills. These are skills that you can create. So if I choose Ranger here, there are a few different options that cost different amounts of money. And you use these things called Master Cubes or Class Cubes, depending on which level you go for. So you can see if I add on skill 1, I would need to use 5,000 Mazetta, which is the currency in the game, like the standard currency, and some Ranger X Cubes. And if I select that and proceed generating a skill, it gives me some skills that are active while I use this class. So this will give me range potency up, shock resistance, and HP up. Now, I already have better than this, so I don't need to use this. So it's basically another way of sort of personalizing your build a little bit. But again, as a brand new player, you're probably not going to bother with this too much until later on. There is also some options here for Arcs Cache, which are skip gameplay and add skill tree. So add skill tree is what I mentioned earlier. You can add an entirely new skill tree if you want to. So this gives you options to play classes in a different way if you want to. Generally, I don't really see the benefit of this too much, but it's there if you want to use it. Just be aware it does cost real money to add one. Now, skip gameplay. This is something you're more likely to use on subsequent characters rather than your first. So this basically allows you to skip up to the current chapter of the story. Now, honestly, I personally don't feel like story takes that long anyway, so I personally probably wouldn't use it. But if you want to get straight through to where the current story is, you can do that if you want to. That is an option. So that's pretty much all I need to cover on the class counter. You will be coming here quite often. So the next thing I want to cover is this counter over here, which is the item lab. Now this, again, I have another video on this on my channel. This is basically where you enhance all your gear. So this is where you grind your gear. This is where you add things like potentials. I will show it briefly, but I do have a more in-depth video on my channel already for this. So we have item enhancement. This is where you grind your gear. So you can see, for example, this rifle is at plus 90. This is where you grind it up to that number. So by grinding your weapon, it gets more potency, which is basically more attack power. So that is item enhancement. Limit breaking is, if you look at these gear, so for example this Axion here, you can see it says plus 80 and then max 80. So certain weapons will have their grind limit capped to a certain amount. So at the moment, plus 80 is the highest I could grind this Axion to. But if I use some items, so you can see if I use 20 arms refiners and 10 arms refiner 2s and 210,000 Mazetta, I can increase that enhancement limit. And now it might be harder to see now because it's grayed out, but now it's at plus 90. Well, now it's at plus 80, but max 90, which means I can now go into item enhancement and grind it some more times. The actual grinding process itself, you basically use up to 5, well, I think it's up to 10 items at a time now. I think they've just changed it. You basically use different items, and each item will give you a certain amount of experience towards leveling that gear up. So just to show how this works, if I, for example, use Let's find something I'm not really going to bother using. Yeah, so this Aelio Gunblade, for example, has no fixes. If I select this, this will give me 1,300 experience. Now you can see on the enhancement level, there is a little bar next to it, and that shows you how much experience you're getting. This gives basically nothing. There are much faster ways of grinding. So generally, the way that you're probably going to grind gear is you'll use these capsules called Endemio that I mentioned earlier. These are designed purely to give experience, so these give 100,000 experience each. There are also these Astrio ones, which actually give 5 million. These you typically get as scratch rewards for pulling on scratch a certain amount of times. For Endemio capsules, the easy way of getting these is if you get items called Gold Prim Swords and Gold Prim Sword 2s, you can turn them into these Endemio capsules. But you will get them quite a lot from trials and so often as well, so they're not in short supply by any means. So if I use, say, 5 of these capsules... Well, actually, we can use 10 now, so let's use 10. So you can see by doing that, we will gain 1 million experience. And you can see that the enhancement level says it's going to go from 80 to 81. If I then hit confirm, you can then use items to increase the chance of getting what's called a great success. And a great success will give you bonus experience. So if I show this, if I go to use a 100%, which would guarantee great success, you can see that it would actually go to 82 instead. Again, if I just show you that and don't use an item, you can see that by default we have a 10% chance of great success. It'll go to 81 with the normal success, but it will go to 82 if we've got a great success. It will also tell you things like the stats. It'll go from 1,049 attack to 1,054, and it'll also tell you if your augment slots change as well, and we'll come on to what augments are in a minute. So by going from 80 to 81, this would actually give this Axion an extra augment slot. So if we do that, it says that the enhancement was successful. Enhancement level has changed from 80 to 81, and then it also says that the augment slots increased from 6 to 7. So that's how the grinding works in NGS. There is no failing grinding in NGS, which you'll probably be very glad to hear. So next up is add augments, which we've briefly touched on. So augments are abilities that are tied to your gear, so they're tied to either your weapons or your armor. And basically, these abilities will give you different stat boosts and so on. So if I look at this Duocelio rifle, for example, you can see it's got these abilities here. Ignore the top one that's in gold, because we'll come on to that in a second. You can see, for example, we've got this ability called Gladiosol LC. And if I expand that, you can see that this ability gives us 20 HP, 6 PP, and 3.5% potency. And all the abilities will give you different boosts. This add augments menu is where you add those abilities. So if I go and add augments, for example, and I choose... Let's just choose like this random Aelio sword. And then I go to my material storage. Let's just say I wanted to add Stamina 1 to this. I wouldn't want to because Stamina 1's terrible, but this is just for the purposes of the video. If I choose one of those capsules, you can see that it says list of augments to affix, Stamina 1, and it will tell you the success rate. So at the minute it's 10% success. Now with augmenting you can fail it. If you fail an augment, you will waste the capsules and the augment won't apply to the weapon. But you can keep retrying though, providing you've still got capsules. However, the way NGS works is you can use multiples of the capsule. So if I use a second capsule, it increases it to 20%, 3 gives us 30%, 4 40%, 5 50%, and so on. And up to a maximum of 10, where we now have a 100% chance of success. Now that success rate will not be 100 for every affix. There are some affixes that have a lower base success rate. You can see if you look at the ability here, it says success 10%. But if I go to another one, you can see that, for example, this Venera Fusia has a 9% success. Megatrial has an 8% success. So for Megatrial, for example, if we use that, even with our 10 capsules, which is the most you can choose, you have an 80% chance. There is then ways that you can use items to increase the success rate as well. There are also items that will protect your capsules if you fail. But as I said, I'm not going to go too in-depth into the item lab in this video. The only other one I really want to cover in this video for the item lab is potentials, which is the gold ability that I mentioned earlier. So if we go back to our Duocellular rifle, we've got this gold ability here, which is Origin Unit level 6. And this tells you exactly what it does. So it says it gives us potency, increases our PB gauge and so on. And you can read it for yourself, but that tells you what this potential does. Now, some weapons will have potentials already, but a lot of them won't. If you want to add a potential, all you do is you select a weapon. So again, let's select this Aelio sword. And it'll tell you what potentials you can put on it. So you can see here we've got Origin Unit level 1, and it tells you what it does. And it also tells you what you need to add this on. So to add this onto the weapon, you would need 55 photon chunks, 100 monotite, and 100 dualamite, plus 100,000 Mazetta. If we do that, it'll add that Origin Unit level 1, and then you can keep upgrading that Origin Unit up to a maximum level 6 currently. The requirements as you level up, as you would imagine, do generally get higher. The Mazetta cost will go up as well. But that will increase the effectiveness of that potential on your weapon. There's also a thing called preset skills as well, which is extra abilities that you can randomly find in weapons that you can then transfer onto other weapons if you want to. I'm not really going to go into that yet as well, because I think for a beginner player, it's probably a bit above what beginners would look into. This is more for when you're trying to perfect your gear later on. There is a thing called multi-weapon in the game. Now, multi-weapon, what this does is it allows you to essentially combine two weapons. What it allows you to do is, if you look at your weapon palette, you can see, for example, on this rifle here, we've got different rifle PAs. If you have a multi-weapon, what this will let you do, say, for example, I had a rifle and launcher multi-weapon, it would allow me to use launcher PAs and rifle PAs on the same weapon slot. So again, that's something that you may or may not want to use. It kind of depends how you play. So with all that being said, that's the item lab. Again, I do have a video on that on my channel already, so feel free to go and check that out if you want a more in-depth guide on how the lab works. There are a couple of things that have updated since that video, and the main one being is that you can now use 10 ingredients for grinding instead of 5. But otherwise, everything else should be pretty similar. Next up, again, not too relevant to this video, but we do have the personal shop. This is, if you have shop tickets, or if you have a thing called premium, which is something you buy with Arts Cash, having a personal shop is one of the benefits that you can get. Now, even if you don't have a personal shop, you can still browse other people's personal shops and buy stuff from them. This is basically where you can sell things to people in the game for the in-game Mazetta currency. So let's say, for example, that I want to buy a new outfit for my character. I can go into layering wear, base wear, and for me it's body type 2 because it's a female character. In this game, type 1 is male and type 2 is female. If I then search by price, it'll show me everything from the cheapest to the most expensive. Or I can search by order put up for sale. So let's say you want this character, and you want this character's outfit. This is, I believe this is Echo's outfit from PSO2. Now, I am actually going to buy this actually because I actually need this. So when you look at the preview, it'll tell you what's called a used status. And this will either say unused, which means that none of your characters have it, or it will say bound to this character. Bound to this character means that that character that you're on has that item already, but none of your other characters do. Or there are certain things that will come up that will say bound to account. If it says bound to account, then it means that everyone has unlocked it. The way that a lot of the cosmetics work in NGS is when you use one, it will unlock for the character that you use it on. But when you use it a second time, it will unlock for every character on your account. And that will apply to future characters you make as well. So you can see for this Magia Saviour outfit, it says bound to this character. So if I buy this, so if I then go into my inventory and I use this, it says once you use this ticket, you'll be able to select it with all characters. And when I hit yes, it says registered Magia Savior to all characters. So now all my characters can use that. So that's the player shop. If you have premium, there is a way to sell things as well by running a personal shop. And you can check your sales and things like that here. So the last main shop we need to look at is this one, which is just called the item shop. This, honestly, you won't use that often. So the item shop only has a few purposes. You can buy and sell stuff here. The gear from here generally isn't great. Now, we do now have these Argent items, which are not too bad. They are 9 stars. And you can see they already have level 6 potential. They already have fixer attack on them. And okay affixes as well. So for someone who's just starting out, I think once you get to level 65, maybe you want to pick these up just to carry you through until you've got something better. You also sell the absolute starter gear as well, so the Prim series and the Sphere series. Oddly, the Argencles are the same price as the Prims, which makes no sense, but here we are. And that is basically all you can buy from this guy. There is some basic armor there as well. You can sell things here, obviously. You can also buy back as well. So if you do accidentally sell something, you can buy it back here. So don't worry too much if you do sell something. As long as you go to this guy pretty soon, you can buy it back. This is the main thing you'll use it for. So you can purchase what are called Restasigne and Reversasigne. So if you're missing any Restasigne or Reversasigne, you just choose them here, select purchase, and it'll top you back up again. But generally, you don't use this NPC that much. So a couple of other things in the cities just before we move on to the combat. So all cities will have what are called a Ryuker device, which is this tower here. Now, Ryuker devices are also scattered around the map as well. And these are basically like fast travel points. So for example, if I select this, and if I go teleport, and I choose, let's say, Halfana Plains West, which is another Ryuker just outside. You can see this fast travels me here. And again, we've got another one of these Ryuker devices here. And you can see we've got the central city just over there. But there are several of these all over the world. Some of them will have these little terminals with them as well, which I use for races. So there is a way you can do these like races around certain parts of the map. So other things that these Ryuker devices are used for. So if we go back to Central City. So you can open your storage from here. I've never really understood the point of this because you can just open your menu, go to items, and then select your storage anywhere. You can also do what's called cooking quick food. Quick food basically is there is a gathering system in NGS, which again I'll cover in a little bit. And by using some of the food items that you get, you can give your character different buffs. So I'm not going to go into too much detail with this, but you can see that if I go to eat one of these rich Aelio herbs, this will give me some damage resistance. There's also extra abilities if you have premium. Then if I add, let's say, a light Aelio peach, that will give me some PP. If I then add for example, a crisp Aelio crab, that would then give me some HP. So different types of food will give you different boosts. If I had some meat, that will give me some potency. And you basically select up to 10 items. So just select 10 random ones. So with these 10 random items I've picked here, this will give me 5% potency, 7% damage resistance, 7% HP, and 15 PP. Plus there's a little bonus for premium, which is 10% rare drop, 10% experience, and 10% Bezetta. So if I then confirm that, my character will eat that, and then I've got those boosts. And you might say I got a ton of experience for doing that. That's because there is a thing in the game called daily tasks, and cooking quick food is always a daily task. So dailies is if you go into your main menu and go to tasks and quests, go to the daily tab. There's a few things you can do here every day, and these will give you different rewards for doing them. There's also weekly tasks, and there's also limited time tasks as well. So feel free to have a quick browse through these and just see if there's anything you want to do. Just while we're on here as well, there is also a mission pass with the game. So mission pass, again, as you complete different dailies, you'll unlock different tiers on the mission pass. If I go back to my things here, you can see that some of these dailies have this star on them, and it says tier. So these will give you points towards leveling your mission pass up. So any that have tier on them are worth doing just to increase your mission pass. As for what the mission pass actually is, there are different tiers of it, and each tier will generally give you different stuff. There is also a gold tier. The gold tier you get by, if you have premium, it will unlock the gold tier automatically. You can also use, I believe you can use star gems as well, which is another currency, another paid one. You can use that to unlock the gold tier as well. I would personally probably just go for the premium. I think premium is generally worth it for the most part for the player shop as well. So that is the mission pass. So next thing, let's move on to the map and combat. So if I go outside here, so when you walk outside of a city, you'll get put into what's called an exploration zone. An exploration zone is a zone for up to 32 players. You can see right at the top left, there is a count here that shows you how many people are in this area. So in this one, this random one I've just walked into, there are 4 people here, including me, out of 32. If you want to go to a more populated one, you can do that from the Ryuker devices as well. So you can teleport to more populated blocks. But you can see we've got a map up on the top left. Each of these little yellow dots, the circular dots are what are called tames, and these are basically non-aggressive creatures that you can defeat to get meat from. And then the triangular ones are hostile enemies. So other things you'll discover in the map as you run around is you'll get these little glowing flowers. And these are, if you remember when I was looking at the item shop, the Restasigne and Reversasigne. So green ones are Restasigne, and yellow ones are Reversasigne. Now if you play PSO, you probably know what Resta and Reversa are. So Restasigne is how you heal in NGS, basically. So if you take damage, you can see on my palette at the bottom here, I have loads of different abilities. This first one here is like a green flower, and this is Restasigne. Now at the moment I'm not hurt, but if I got hurt, I can then use a Restasigne and that will heal me. Similarly, the Reversasigne, again on my palette, that is the yellow flower. These are used to revive a dead player. It will revive anyone nearby when you use it. You're limited to carrying a maximum of 5 Reversasignes or 10 Restasignes. There are some quests that will let you carry more, but generally it's a limit of 10 Resta and 5 Reversa. Also, outside of each main city, you will have these indestructible training targets. These are good for like testing your build out on. So these will show you how much damage you're doing. There is also a DPS counter at the top right that you can turn on, so you can test different builds and see what your DPS is like. So these are really good for testing things out, and these, as I say, are outside every single starting city. So these are outside Central City and Aelio, there's some more outside Retem City, there are some outside Caveris Camp, and there's some more outside of the Steer Camp as well. Next up, other things you need to know about the map. So quite often you'll get things that will appear on the map like random events, so it might be a bit awkward to see, but if you look on the screen here where my mouse cursor is, we've got 2 icons here. This first one, this yellow orange diamond, this is basically a task marker. So if you look here, I've got a task here which is for my next story thing, because I haven't completed story on this character yet. And this is telling me to head to the task marker location. So if I want to continue the story, I would head towards this task marker. And you can see as I rotate my camera around, it tells me where it is. So it's over there somewhere. So that is the task marker. The next one underneath it, this blue one with a T in it, This is a trial, and these are randomly occurring things that happen in the field. So if I run towards that, it may have gone by the time I get there. You might be wondering why I'm not running through Central City, and the reason for that is because if I run through Central City, it'll put me in a different instance, and then when I come out again, I might not be in the same one, and the trial might not be there. There are also other things on the map, so we do have these pads here. If you see one of these, just run into it, and it will launch you in the direction you're facing. Just a faster way of getting around the map. Just a little thing as well while we are moving around. So your standard moving speed is actually quite slow. This is kind of your standard moving speed. If you then sort of press and quickly hold R2, you'll go into a dash. And then you can release R2 then, and you'll maintain the dash as long as you keep moving. Again, we'll use this little booster. Now, for how the actual combat works, you can see we've got some enemies here. You might be able to see there's a little orange target on them. But I'm not actually locked onto that. If I then press L1, I'll lock onto that one. And then it means that if I dash, I will actually circle around this enemy. So it will keep my camera focused on that enemy. So that's how that works. You can also switch targets by hitting a direction on the right analog stick. So if I do that, it'll switch to this guy or that guy. And you see it just bouncing between them. For the actual combat itself, though, I'm not really going to go into that too much because it does differ a lot depending on what weapon you use. Now, as you kill things, you will see that on your game, you will see a list of things that scroll. That tells you all the items you're getting. Now, by default, when you get items, it'll go into your inventory. For me, they don't because there is an option you can turn on to actually funnel all the items into your material storage if you have material storage. Again, material storage is generally a paid item. Full disclosure, I do get that for free because I'm an NGS creator. But generally, if you're using material storage, it will cost you a bit more. So you can see, as I get over towards this target here, you can see it's actually picking out a few of these enemies as targets with that blue T symbol again. And if I run near here, I'll get an emergency trial.
Trial start.
So it says trial start, enemy suppression. So it says defeat the enemies, and I have a 10-minute countdown on the left-hand side to defeat 8 enemies. Now these are all really low levels, so I'll kill them more or less instantly. But by defeating these enemies, you see there are other enemies here as well, but these are not part of the trial. So there is still these guys over here.
Success.
And by doing that, we clear the trial and we get some rewards. So for that one, we got 1,000 Mazetta. We also got some bonus stuff as well because we are currently in an event where you get bonus things for doing certain trials. So yeah, so keep an eye out for those emergency trials. They are randomly occurring. There are also special enemies that appear on the map occasionally, so if you look at the map again, you can see on the map, sort of just south of where my arrow is, there is a green icon. And if you look over here, there's this big guy. So green icons on the map are normally bosses. If I go near this guy, this is what's called a veteran enemy. Well, I'm not going to fight it because it's only level 15 and someone looks like they're fighting it already, so I'll lead them to it. But veteran enemies are these special bosses that are scattered around the maps. They are tougher than normal bosses, but they generally get better rewards. So keep an eye out for those spawning as well. Next thing you need to know about exploration areas is gathering. So each area will have various different items you can gather. There are normally different things, like there are different plants, there are different foods, there's ores that you can mine, and there's obviously tames that you can use to get for meat as well. So for example, these deer over here, these are what are called tames. And if I defeat one of these, sorry dude, I get some Aelio meat from it. So that's how you gather your meat in NGS. Similarly, we've also got a herb here. So by taking this, I get a rich Aelio herb, and also in the trees as well. There is some peaches in the trees. So generally, when you run around an exploration area, it doesn't hurt to just sort of gather things as you go, because you do use these for cooking quick food. You also do use some of the things like ores for some item enhancement as well, so definitely worth picking up. So next thing I want to cover is region mags. So again, we've teleported to another one of these Ryuker devices here. And I've done this because I know there's a region mag nearby here. So region mags, they will appear on the map once you've discovered them. So if I go into the map, you can see here, we are at the Ryuker device for Leciel Coast, and just next to it there is what's called the Invincible Region Mag. And again, like I say, they do appear on the map once you've found them. You can also fast travel to them as well once you've discovered them. But for the purpose of this video, I'll show you where this one is. So all you do is from the Ryuker device, you just come up here. These things here are called updrafters. If you see one of these, all you need to do is just double jump. And then hold the button for a little bit and you'll start floating. And then just drop down. You can see again we've got some more materials to gather. So we've got some bananas there. There are some tomatoes. There's also these little things called message pods that you'll find every now and again. Some of these message pods will actually give you items as well, so keep an eye out for those. So this is a region mag. Now again, because I'm recording this just before Christmas, the region mags tend to be decorated according to the season. So at the minute they are Christmas themed. Normally they'll get more of just like a white colour, look a lot more basic than this. When you access a region mag, you can basically feed the region mag different items, and by doing this you'll get different boosts. There are what's called Mag Boost Alls and Mag Boost Personals. The Mag Boost All, I believe, is as people feed the mag, eventually when it's reached a certain amount of food, it will give a buff to everyone in the region. And then the Personal Mag Boost is a buff that you will get for feeding it. So if I feed this some items, you can see that it also tells you the mag's wish list. So this is items that the mag prefers to eat, and this will update every day. So at the moment, this mag is most interested in robust Aelio bananas and any type of seafood. And you can see that if we feed it the bananas, we get plus 200% point rate. And if we feed it the seafood, we get plus 50% point rate. So it will highlight the items that are boosted in your inventory first. So let's give it a few bananas. And by feeding it those, it says item inserted into region mag. The mag is now full, and our mag boost personal has been activated. And that has given us a 3.9% boost to the all rate. And we're now at a level 3 mag boost. If I then open my main menu and go to my personal menu and character info, this will show you all the different boosts you've got active. So what you can see, it is a bit overwhelming when you first look at it. So the first thing it will tell you is, it tells you your overall boosts here. So you can see at the moment I've got 459% rare drop rate boost, 29% Mazetta boost, and 85% experience boost. It will tell you anything that's boosting these. So I've recently used something called Rappy Shaped Fritters, which is an item that gives you a few different boosts. You can see we've got the quick food boost from when we ate earlier. We've got a food boost premium effect, which is the extra effects we get from eating quick food because we have premium. It will tell you if you've got a half skip doll use active. So half dolls are basically items that will revive you on half health when you die. And there is a limited amount of uses you've got of those within a certain time frame. You've also got the region mag boost here. So because we've just fed this region mag, that has now given us some rare drop boosts. And also because we're in a seasonal event at the moment as well, it's also given us a seasonal enemy appearance rate boost. We've also got an extra boost from our add-on skills that I showed earlier as well. So generally, when you log on every day, what I would recommend you do as a new player is obviously try and get through the story as fast as you can. I would then recommend do your daily quests, because by completing all your daily quests, you will get a decent amount of money from them. And then at the end of the week, you'll get a decent amount of money from your weekly quests as well. Make sure you do those. Generally, make sure you get the region mags before you do anything, because it's basically free boosts, it's free experience boosts. The boost that you get does depend on which region mag you use as well. So if I go into the world here, you can see that this one is what's called the Invincible region mag. This one, when the all boost fills, which is the all boost is when everyone on the server has fed the mag enough. It's actually a really good time to show this actually, because when we fed this mag, it was at 3.7% boost. We fed it and it went up to 3.9, and then someone else has just fed it and now it's at 4. So when that gets to 100, it will apply a boost to everyone in the area, by which I mean everyone in Aelio. But the personal boost, you can see, which is what we've got already for just for feeding it once, that is currently giving us a plus 20% rare drop boost. So it's a really nice little boost that we get from that. So make sure that you go into your region mags. Now, I do have some older videos on my channel that also show where all the region mags are in each area, so feel free to go and check those. Okay, so next thing, we mentioned them a little bit earlier, but we need to talk about Cocoons and Towers. So Cocoons and Towers, as I mentioned earlier on, is how you get a lot of your skill points for your skill trait. And the way you find them is you just need to discover them on the map. They will show up on the map once you've discovered them, but you'll need to find them initially. So this is what a cocoon looks like. So this sort of little bit that's around it, this will be bright yellow when you haven't discovered it. But this is basically what a cocoon looks like. When you go up to it, you can actually access it just here. And that will let you go into the cocoon and do the trial in there to get the skill points. There is also towers, which you can actually see more in the distance here. So that huge bit over there, this here, is a tower. So when you go and discover that, again, that will open up so that you can access it to get your skill points. You'll also probably notice as you play as well, because it is kind of hard to not notice, we have this huge area here that floats in the air, and this will be visible in every single region. This is a place called Leciel. There is a special quest for this, which is kind of geared towards the higher level players. This is how you get some really good gear from as well, and some good fixed capsules and so on. So you'll probably run Leciel quite a lot at later game. Again, I do have a video on Leciel on my channel as well, so for Leciel exploration, so feel free to check that video as well. But yeah, as a new player, I wouldn't worry about Leciel too much until you get to the higher levels. So one other thing I didn't mention is that you will get random boxes around the map as well. So these will be either, well, very different colours. So the most common ones are green. These, when you break them, will just give you an end grinder, which are the grinders that you use to upgrade your gear. So if you're ever short on grinders, just go and look for some green boxes. That's one way of doing it. There is also gold boxes, which will tend to have some of the crafting materials in them. They're a little bit more infrequent. And there is also red boxes as well, which will be, make all the PSO players very happy. So red boxes are generally hidden away. I don't actually have any in this region, I don't think, that I haven't discovered, but there'll be hundreds of them in each region that are hidden away. And when you open those, they'll have a variety of different things in them. So they can have things like, I think they can have star gems in them sometimes. You can get Mazetta from them. You can get certain armors from them. So generally they're worth sort of keeping an eye out for. I don't know if they're necessarily worth hunting out and looking for all of them, but if you see one, you may as well open it. And in every region, there are these things called Battledias. So they'll be marked on the map as yellow portal and purple portal. Occasionally during events, they might have an extra one in the city as well for a special event one, but usually it's just the yellow and purple. There's one of these each in each region. And again, these won't appear on the map until you've discovered them. So let's go and look at the Aelio Battledia. Because for a new player, some of these are actually really useful. So this is what a Battledia looks like when you find one. Now what these are, these when you activate them will take you into an instance, and they are essentially a special quest. Now the difference between the yellow and the purple ones is yellow ones are basically used for power leveling more or less, so they generally give really, really good experience. They are a fantastic way of just getting through the game quickly and getting to high level. which one you're going to be able to do is going to depend a lot on what's called your battle power. But generally, the yellow Battledias are a really solid way of leveling up quite fast. The purple Battledias, which again, if we go to this one here, again, these won't appear on your map initially, you will have to find them, but once you've found them, you can fast travel to them. So you can see here, we've got a purple Battledia. These let you fight these special boss enemies called Gigantix, and Gigantix are basically really tough versions of bosses. They hit really hard, they take less damage than normal, and these basically put you in a gauntlet against a few of them. But you can get some really decent stuff from doing them. So again, these are catered for very different types of players, but it's there if you want to do it. Just on the subject of Gigantix, Gigantix do also spawn on the map as well. The way that they work is they are tied to the weather conditions. So NGS does have actual weather. And the way Gigantix work is, for Gigantix bosses, they will appear on the map whenever there is a inclement weather condition. So the inclement weather conditions are different depending on which region you're in. It is also confused a bit at the moment by the fact that pretty much everywhere in the game is snowing at the minute because it's the Christmas event. But in Aelio, you will every now and again get thunderstorms. In Retem, you'll get sandstorms. In Kaverish, you'll get snowstorms, to the point where you can't really see it's like a blizzard. And in Styr, you'll get it where the volcanoes in Styr will become a lot more active. When those are happening, you'll get these purple icons on the map. You can actually see one at the moment. This isn't for a Gigantix boss though, this is for what's called a Recon Gigant, which I'll come on to. But you'll get a purple icon on the map, and that will spawn a Gigantix boss. For defeating Gigantix bosses, you can get things like there's specific gear that you can get from them. There's also specific capsules that they drop as well. So they can be worth doing sometimes. The Recon Gigants are basically Gigantix versions of regular monsters, but they tend to be in a group. For a new player, I would not recommend messing with them because they tend to be very high level, and they will tend to mess you up very quickly. So this is Recon Gigants over here. So they are level 79 Recon Gigants. So they're actually slightly lower level ones at the moment. The way you can tell they're the Gigants is because they have that weird sort of glowing purple effect on them, but also the fact that they have the word malevolent at the start of their name. Generally, NGS uses a system where different enemies will have different prefixes at the start of their name, if there's anything special about them. And there is quite a few of them. So there are silver and gold enemies, which are rare enemies, which will just give you more experience, and they're also your sources of silver prim swords, gold prim armors. There are things like elite enemies, which can give you certain affix capsules, and they tend to be called, well, they have elite at the start of the name. Remember malevolence, which I've just covered, are the Gigantix. And the veteran enemies will tend to be called, they'll tend to have veteran at the start of their name as well. The veteran enemies are often called dread enemies as well. So if you ever get an NPC that asks you to go and kill some dread enemies, it's asking you to kill veterans. I don't know why they refer to them as veterans and dreads. It does kind of confuse things for new players, but if you hear anything to do with dread enemies, it's referring to veterans. There are also some special ones you get now and again as well, so some seasonal events will have special ones like resplendent enemies, which just act a little bit differently. So one of the last things I want to cover in this video is, well, two more things. First of all, just quickly the creative space. There is this NPC called Arsh in every town, and she is the NPC that's related to creative space. Creative space is basically an area where you can just build more or less whatever you want. Again, I do have a video on creative space already, so go and check that. So that is actually really good timing. So this brings us on to one other function in NGS. This also relates to PSO2 Classic as well, because they use a similar system. So there is a special type of quest in the game called urgent quests, which get announced every so often, so they normally get announced either at quarter to the hour, and then they will start on the hour, or occasionally there'll be a concert before them, and then the emergency quest will get announced after that. This is where you fight some of like the big bosses in the game, so things like your Dark Falls. This is where they'll show up. They'll get announced server-wide like this. So obviously that's in Japanese, but if you've got it on English voices, it will be an English announcement. It will also scroll this message at the top of the screen. So it says, "This is an emergency transmission. We've confirmed signs of renewed Dark Falls activity. We are preparing an interception operation. Please prepare to deploy." And then it tells you for players with 3,413 battle power or higher. Battle power, again, I have covered in another video. It is essentially a metric of how well geared you are. So if I up my menu, you can see my battle power currently on this character is 4,323. So I have more than enough battle power to do that Dark Falls quest. To actually do the quests, if you go open your map again, whenever this gets announced, you'll get these red marks on the map. It will also say urgent quest on the map when you open it up. And what you can see is each region will have its own urgent quest, and you can choose which one to do. So at the moment, in Aelio, we've got this one here, which is the Battle of Halthia Lake. This is a urgent quest to defeat Darkfalt's Aegis, which is like a raid boss. In Retem, we have Omen of the Planet Breaker, which is to defeat Darkfalt's Solus, which is another raid boss. In Caveris, we have Remnants of Ambition, which is to defeat Venogia Vera, which is another raid boss. And in Steer, we've got Corpse Starless Suppression Op, which is a new one they've just added, which is to defeat Valvalan. This one's quite a weird quest because although it's normal bosses rather than raid bosses, they've got this unique mechanic where if you don't kill... There's two of them, and if you don't kill them within a certain time frame of each other, they'll revive. So it's quite an interesting quest. Basically, you can press X on it to open the quest info, and it'll tell you a bit about the quest. Once the quest actually starts, you can just select it from here if you want to. If you're in the right region, it will actually have a prompt as well to start the quest. So as you may or may not know, NGS is not the only game you can play from this client. So NGS does also have the original PSO2 Classic. Now, by default, you won't be able to play it. PSO2 Classic is basically listed. I don't know what it's like for consoles. I would assume it works in a similar way. But for the Steam version, at least, the option to play PSO2 Classic is actually a DLC. It's a free DLC. And when you download it, then you'll be able to play PSO2 Classic. So you can do it from the character select screen like I showed at the start. But the other way of doing it is if you go to a Ryuker device, you've got these options for block transfer or room transfer. Room transfer will just basically let you choose different regions that people are currently in. So you can see there's a region there with 7 people in it. I could join that and join their area. But what you want to go to is block transfer. Now, block transfer, first of all, allows you to switch between different blocks in the game. This will update. So the number of blocks that are active will basically update depending on how many people are in the game. So at the time of recording, this is like midday in Europe, so it's like a really quiet time of the game, time of the day for the game. So you can see there's not that many blocks. And these bars show you how many players are in each block. Generally, for things like urgent quests and so on, you want to be in one of the busier blocks. And the game will transfer you, though, when you select an urgent quest into what it thinks is the most appropriate one. There are also some blocks at the bottom which are marked as for communication. These, there are restrictions on them, so you can only play a match with other blocks for communication. So it will limit who you can actually match with for quests. But these are basically there, as the name suggests, for if you just want to go somewhere and chat to people and you're not worried about actually playing. But then at the top, you can see we do have an option there for transfer to a PSO2 block. Now, when you select this, it will transfer you over to PSO2 Classic, so it will... I don't really know how it does it, but it basically closes NGS, opens PSO2 Classic, and will warp you in on the same character that you're on. And that is how you access the PSO2 Classic blocks. So what I'll do is we'll warp over to a PSO2 Classic block. I'll come back to you from PSO2 Classic. And just like that, we switch over to PSO2 Classic. So it is kind of crazy that we can still play this from within the NGS clients. But yeah, here we are in PSO2 Classic. So if you want to go back to NGS, all you do is you go to the block transport, and there is an option at the top there for transfer to a PSO2 NGS block, and that will take you back to NGS. So I hope you guys have found this video fairly useful anyway. Hopefully for new players to NGS, it might help you out a little bit with getting started. If you do have any questions or anything though, just leave them in the comments below, and I will try and answer whatever I can. I will try and help out as much as I can. But you know, it seems a shame to end that so suddenly there when we're in PSO2 Classic. So it seems like about the right time to announce that from the 12th of January, I am actually going to be bringing back PSO2 Classic on the channel. So I haven't played PSO2 Classic seriously since the Japanese servers, and I probably haven't played it since about episode 5. Or I think I played briefly during episode 6, but I quit shortly after. So I have not played PSO2 Classic since then. I have had a few people asking if I'll do some PSO2 Classic content, and really, aside from really old content from years ago, there isn't really anything on the channel currently. That is going to change come 2025. So from the 12th of January, I am going to be starting to do some PSO2 streams, as in PSO2 Classic, and I will also do some PSO2 Classic videos as well. I don't know at this point how much they'll be. It will depend on how much I enjoy the game when I go back to it. If I'm not feeling it, then I won't do too much, but if, you know, it could become a regular thing potentially. I do also want to bring back some NGS streams occasionally as well, just because I feel like I need to, because I haven't streamed it for months. But I definitely want to bring back PSO2 Classic. It seems like the right time to do it. So if you are a fan of PSO2 Classic, feel free to stick around for those. As always though, if you've enjoyed the video, please consider the usual, you know, like, subscribe, join as a member if you want to. You can also follow me over on Twitch at Section Skylight, or on Twitter at Section Skylight. Or again, like I've said, feel free to join the Discord, which I'll leave a link to in the description as well. Yeah, hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And because I won't see you before then, have a good Christmas and New Year.